Well, I'm talking on behalf of the Guild of the Dutch Head Gardeners, and I tell you about the story of Park Glorieux in Eindhoven. It is it's beginning of 1912, and it was first the congregation of the Sisters of Mercy, and now it's a home for 140 elderly people. It's 12 hectares. There are all kinds of issues, perennials, hedges, kitchen garden, ponds and waterways, forest. I'm not the head gardener. This is Harry Teunissen. This is the head gardener. He's got a great knowledge of his garden, but he has less knowledge of English, so I'll do the talk for him. There's a jardin potager as well. And you see here there is mulching. It's done by the inhabitants, and they're growing some vegetables for their kitchen. This park is in the midst of Eindhoven in the Netherlands. It's surrounded by the city, and it's a green leisure place in Eindhoven. It is in the south of Holland, and the altitude is about 20 to 22 meters. We always think in centimeters in high in Holland, and not in hundreds of meters, because we are a very flat country. In Eindhoven, the average rainfall is about 800 millimeters, and it's decreasing, especially in summertime. Well, when Harry came working at the park in 2014, he had some problems. And the problems, one of the biggest one was the water problem. The water, all the rainwater was not kept in the estate, but was as quickly as possible brought out by all kind of ditches, canals, the way the Dutch do. They think about the problems they have with water and the windmills we have to get water to the sea. The other thing was that all leaves in the estate were just were removed to make compost. And the question mark is about Harry's thinking about compost. He hates compost. It makes a lot of work. You bring out the organic matter to a compost heap, and later on you bring it back. So he thinks you should leave it there. It's, well, we all know that's a better thing for the organic matter. When he came in the estate, there was a bad growth of everything. The trees were dying off. The grass wasn't doing very well. And he found a lot of problems by the lack of water. And in summertime, of course, the last summers are very dry, and that causes even more problems. You heard just before that some beech trees were having very difficulties with the dry summers, and there was a low biodiversity. So the first thing Harry did was excavators for 3 months long, working on his estate, making holes, ditches, ponds, and to get the water not on the path and the roads, but just to get it away from the path and roads, so it wouldn't have any troubles. And he said, and he made that the organic matter, wherever it was, that it stayed there. And I come back to that, but he always thinks that you have to tell your solution, to spread your problems, and tell to anyone. That's a big issue. Well, what he did was he made all kinds of small ditches. The rain wasn't streaming off away from the estate. It was always held in small holes, ditches, to infiltrate in the soil. Keep the water as long as possible on the estate, not in a pond, but on the soil itself. And I warn you, these pictures are made in winter. So you see a lot of water and you can think, wow, what is his problem? Yeah, there's no problem. There's enough water, but in summer it can be really dry. So this is a picture where you can see that the paths are always higher than the grass besides. And that's not because it was so that Harry made it like that. And he made sure that there was all holes anywhere besides the path, so it can infiltrate in the soil. That makes also what I saw here before, and what historical is right, is that you have raised beds. But raised beds also make that the water streams off and makes it drier. So in fact, in this climate change, we should not raise our beds, but lower our beds. Here you can see that the soil is a reservoir from water. It is moist, it is wet, the mosses are growing, and it's still infiltrated here. Here you can see the small ditches, and it's not a runaway ditch where the water goes in the pond. It slowly infiltrates in the soil. There is a maximum level from the water. Sometimes if there's too much water, it will damage some roads or buildings. And what Harry did was he made a tube and he lowered it centimeter by centimeter to see what is the maximum level he could manage in the park. And it took him some time to find out what was the best level. But he found out this, what he now has reached some goals. I'll show you later. And he, of course, he leaves all organic matter, leaves in the estate. It's very important for the biodiversity. And he sees that there is more life, there is better growth, the leaves are bigger, the trees start to regrowth again. And it's, well, I can't show you these pictures because you have to be there. Go there and see what he has reached. So leaves on the ground, less evaporation, the temperature is higher, lower in summer and higher in winter. One of the things he always does is never remove leaves under the trees. No mowing, just leave it there with rest, and it will always be moist, and there will always be food for the trees. And then you will here see some pictures that I'll show you that what he does in winter is soak, soak, soak. So he built a reservoir in winter. He makes sure that the pot plant I shows never turns up on his estate. His soil will always be moist. So whenever it rains, you know that the water will infiltrate and be there. If it is dry, you saw like the pot plant I showed you just in the start, it will run off and be away and run away. So when he started to do this management, and now the groundwater level is 30 centimeters higher than when he started 7 years ago. And now it's about the same level as it was in 1950s. You can still have some branches that you cut. You can have some wood that you have to cut. You have some leaves that are on the path. And Harry says, no, don't bring it to a compost heap somewhere, but bring it, just make big heaps on your estate. And he does, when he at least research these heaps, there's a huge amount of biodiversity in these heaps. There's foxes, there's insects, there's all kinds of animals living in there. You see all kinds of mosses. And when he cuts a tree, he just makes these heaps. There's a volunteer who makes holes in it for the insects, and he just leaves everything in the estate. Well, here you see Harry talking to the Dutch head gardeners, what his management is and how the way he reaches his goals. And did it work? I think it worked. I'll show you. This is a picture of the summer in 2016, in summertime. So you can see the trees are just light colored, are just having difficulties. And this is the same time in the summer of 2020, when you see that the trees are dark green and the leaves are really covering the ground, doing very well. So when you talk to Harry, he says he has some results, his conclusions. One of the things he also says is that as a head gardener, you should stay as long as possible on your estate. So you get to know your chess pieces. So if you move one piece on your chessboard, you know it influences all the other pieces. And that takes a long time. So you will be researching and searching for a long time to get solutions. So be curious to solutions, yeah, do research and search for new solutions. And the most important thing is keep the water in, yeah, and soak your soil, moisten it, start in the winter, and keep it wet. Do not waste any organic materials. Love all animals as well as a gardener. Increase your biodiversity and tell your story. Sometimes people don't understand what you are doing. In wintertime, it's really wet. So people have to know why you are doing it. And Harry has a special office for that. Well, this is his office. And you can imagine that if people come in here, they're really relaxed and they never see problems, only solutions. And that works to this. This is the outside of his office, and there's white smoke coming from the hut, and it brings him climate change solutions.